The news of the day would be that the New York Knickerbockers went ahead and finally got a coach after all this time, and that coach would be none other than Mike Brown. He is now the head coach for the Knicks, and this is, coming after some weeks of trying to find one, which was interesting when they let Tibs go. Who would it be? There were some bigger names out there you thought that would be in consideration that weren't, and then we know, Rob, also that they had a list of a handful of people that some never even were able to get interviews. Some were able to get some interviews.
Well, they already had jobs. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm a team, like you're looking to talk to – no, he's under contract.
You can't be calling him, hey, hello, Rockets. Is Ime available?
Right.
What?
Hey,
No.
Jason Kidd, I know you got a new contract with the
and a number
Mavericks.
one draft pick coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they had
crazy.
Yeah, they had a few. Quinn Snyder would be another one. Taylor Jenkins, a handful of people who had some. They did have some meetings and took some interviews, but at the end of the day, Mike Brown got the opportunity. So there you have it. They got their guy that they believe will lead them to the future. What say you?
Okay. If I'm a New York Knicks fan today, I am melancholy. I am a Debbie Downer. I am distraught because Mike Brown, really? The Knicks, Mike Brown's been around. What is this, his fifth start? It's going to be like his fifth team, I should say. I know he did the Cavs twice. Mm-hmm. But this will be like his fifth time being a head coach. And very seldom, Kelvin Washington, does a coach win a championship after making that many stops, okay? It just normally doesn't happen that way. I can think of one guy it's happened to, and that's about it off the top of my head, who made numerous stops and won later on in his career. So the Knicks wanted Larry Brown, but I think they got closer to Charlie Brown by hiring Mike Brown. I mean, Larry Brown did it. Larry Brown won a Pistons with the championship with the Pistons later after being with a lot of teams. But he ain't Larry Brown. Larry Brown also won a championship in college.
Yeah.
Larry Brown's the only coach who won in the NBA and in college basketball. So you're talking about a select group. Mike Brown hasn't won anything. Zero. Zip. Nada. They thought they had something going in Sacramento, couldn't win the big game, right? There were a couple times where you thought the Kings are going to advance. They're going to beat the Warriors and move on.
Right.
No way, no how. I don't know how you get excited. To me, it feels like the Knicks went to kick the football and they got it pulled from them. They missed it.
Yep.
I mean, I'm all for getting rid of Tibs. I told you that. That after they lost the first two games in the Eastern Conference Finals at home, including that debacle in Game 1, 14 points with 2:38 to go, I have no issue with him being fired. But to hire another guy who's been around for a while, had these teams, never really has won anything, coached, in Cleveland and coached for the Lakers and all that. When the Lakers, he got fired in second year right after 5 or 6 games. You remember that? Disaster. Yep. So my point is, if you're Nick Nation or whatever you want to call themselves, Nick Faithful or whatever, my God, is that all they came away with? Mike Brown? I'm sorry. I'm not with it.
Look, if they're Nick Faithful, they out here about to be Nick looking at other things right now. Nick cheating. They ain't about to be faithful right now, Rob. This is a couple of things. So you touched on something I want to go back to. I'm not going to act like Tom Thibodeau was Phil Jackson. I said that in real time. My thing was, all right, then if you have to have, in my opinion, a plan, if we're letting go a guy who's had the most success there in 22 years, he has now surpassed Pat Riley for the most wins, fourth most wins in Knicks history. He had 11 playoff wins. He had 4 appearances in 5 seasons. So you had a guy who was creating something, who had gotten you all the way to a game and a half away from the finals. So to me, okay, you're letting him go to get, and this was my concern. Was my issue. And they went from, going to New York, going to see some huge Broadway plays, to going to see a community center play now. You got Mike Brown, who's some of the highlights on his career. He got Coach of the Year in 2009. Pretty easy to get a Coach of the Year or at least be a candidate when you got that era of LeBron James, right? Then you go to the Warriors for a few when Steve Kerr was going through some things. You coach there for a little bit, so you get some wins with them. But after that, to me, it's been underachieving. You underachieved with the Lakers. You had that same team that came back from an NBA Finals appearance, NBA championship, and you underachieved with them. Then the next year, as you mentioned, you only coached 5 games. You underachieved in Sacramento with some really good 2 All-NBA guys and Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox and some other players, quality players as well. When they got around, the 2 seed? You lost in the playoffs. So to me, you wouldn't got a guy that's one of those, well, he'll always get a job. Everybody seems to like him, seems to be a nice guy. And I'm not even saying he's not a solid coach. There's 30 jobs. Somebody has to have a job. But for a Knicks team that had a chance to get back in the Eastern Conference and finals and maybe get to the finals because the East is wide open, this to me did not wow me. This did not move the needle. And if I, as you mentioned, as a Knicks fan, I would be like, wait, what? And I would actually be upset. And this goes back to James Dolan mentioning we just do weird things. He himself, sometimes we overreact. Sometimes we chase the shiny thing. And to me, he did it again by overreacting, chasing the shiny thing, and getting rid of somebody who, again, fine. Then you have to have a better plan, a contingency plan. And I didn't see that. And this is why the Knicks be nicking. And ruining situations.
The one thing, I hear you. I'm going to disagree, though. I'm sorry with the Tibs. You know, you say you got wins. Pat Riley took the Knicks to the finals. Like
he did.
This, you know, like so he can have more wins than Pat Riley and all this other stuff.
But Rob, he was on his way.
But after they, no, I'm just saying I don't have any issue. Once they lost that series, and I'm just saying they all had expectations after they beat the Celtics that they were going to the finals, and then you lose game 1 in that fashion, and then you being a coach, hey, you can shake off one game, right? It's only one game. They lost game 2 at home, and that was the series. So I don't have an issue with them firing him. What I do is I have an issue with going out to get a coach who has a track record of not winning. That's the issue I have, and I think that's where you got to look at it and go, and I get it. There aren't a million coaches with a championship trophy in their back pocket, and I talked about Michael Malone, and I guess they had some bad blood or something before, so they, I guess they held that against them, and which is fine if they wanted to do that. But I would have to, and once they talked to the players in the exit interviews, and they felt like Tibbs had to go, because that's what this was. This wasn't a plan. They just signed a guy in the offseason to a new extension. So this was not the plan. They thought they had their guy. You got to remember, their president and GM was his agent. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
They have a relationship. They didn't do this just because they were scheming to do this all along. This thing happened. They didn't get to the finals, and then they talked to the players on the way out who weren't feeling Tibbs enough to make them say, you know what, let's give him another shot at this. So I don't have the issue with the firing. I just think there were other people, or take a chance. I'd even take a chance on somebody who you really believe might have that thing and might be the new hotness, rather than a retread who hasn't been able to get over the hump. You're going to look back at this. There are people in New York, hoping and wishing, going, maybe this is like when the Yankees hired Joe Torre and everybody was down on Joe Torre. The headline in the Daily News in New York when Joe Torre got hired for the Yankees was Clueless Joe. And he went on to win 5 World Series, right?
Yeah,
well, 4 or 5 World Series with the Yankees.
4.
So people are hoping that it's that, like it wasn't a popular hire. But he also had Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera.
I was going to say,
you already
that group
know,
he had come in.
Come on, man.
Andy Pettit. I mean, they had that group was special. There's
Thank you. That was a
about
special
that
group. They had 5 guys that came up to Jorge Posada. I'm 100%. So Joe
Bernie
Torre,
Williams.
you want to give him all the flowers, that's fine. But the group that he had that was developed in the Yankees minor league system was different. This Knicks team was ready to win last year. They made all the moves, all the picks from Mikal Bridges. They made the trade for Cat. Kelvin, this was supposed to be it, and it didn't happen.
And my only thing, we're not. I'm not overly mad at the firing in the sense, again, I don't think he is the greatest coach of all time. You let him go. My issue, I've told you, was what was the plan. But also, I'll say this. This is where we will absolutely fundamentally disagree. The firing would suggest that maybe all of a sudden they're like, oh, I lean more toward maybe there was some players issue. Karl Anthony Towns, who also had the same agent. maybe upset he didn't get some crucial minutes in a game to game. I can understand that. But to me, I don't like the firing when it comes to, say, the expectations. Dude, nobody thought the Knicks were getting to the finals before the season and even during the playoffs. I get what you're saying. They beat the Celtics. Now you have to go.
Things change.
But to me,
Things
but
change.
what I'm saying is you got to a Game 6 against a eventual really good team in this Pacers. Maybe we all underestimated them all year. That, to me, doesn't signal firing when I didn't even have expectations.
You could lose. I agree with you on that. I agree that you could lose to the Pacers, but you can't give up a 14-point lead at home with 2:38. That is if you don't get fired off of that, Kelvin, you'll never get. There could be no reason to fire you, and that is an all-time choke job. Would you agree with that? All time.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it was one and whatever, but I told you, I think it was more of the Pacers. That's a story for another day. But it's gonna be they had one playoff win series in 22 years, I believe it was, the Knicks, prior to him, and to me, they should have another because the East is wide open. But don't put yourself back in a situation where you're no longer relevant. We all enjoy the Knicks being relevant. It's good for the NBA. And so I just didn't like the hire of Mike Brown for this situation. Not that Mike Brown couldn't be the Hornets or the Jazz or some other coach, but specifically for a Knicks team that realistically has championship aspirations, I didn't like the hire.
All right.